is no escape. Yandere SCP Foundation X listener up in here. Now, we are technically in chapter 14, but technically, we're doing a recap, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, getting straight into the recap. It's kind of confusing because it meant this, but I 100% believe we passed out somewhere, and like while we were in the middle of doing something last chapter, at the end of it, then into this chapter that we're supposed to be recapping on, we start having a dream of like the past whenever we had that car accident and that we couldn't feel our legs and etc, etc, etc. And then we wake, and then whenever we like, they're like, if we could hear like the nurses, doctors could be like, she's been out for 2 days, when the hell she's gonna wake up, is she gonna survive, etc, etc, etc. And we're like, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, ugh. And then finally, randomly, like after super pain, I guess, I don't know, we went like boom, and we woke up with a scream, and then we looked around and we're like, oh my goodness, and we're just panicking like crazy. Wow. We just asked questions, and we received that Dr. K carried us to the infirmary. We've been out for about 2 days. And then Dr. K was there, Clef was there, Dr. Iceberg was there. Everyone that we love and care about as doctors was there. Even Dr. Bright, because he's the one who's taking care of us currently. Dr. Cliff, as you can see, is like the joker of everything and everything. Eventually, most of the doctors had to go away because they had stuff to do. And Dr. Bright was working on us and everything like that. And we're as we talked to Dr. Bright, he was supposed to make us feel better, but in matter of fact, we end up revealing more and more about his brother that's an SCP that can apparently heal anybody that he touches or goes near or talks to. And I'm just like, what? And you're not an SCP? Like, Dr. Bright, I'm concerned. But continuing on, and how he's sad that he's barely able to see his brother, etc, 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 starts crying. We basically make him feel better, and then we promise to, like, if we see his brother, that would make sure we let him know how he is, or give him something from his brother, and then yeah, it's kind of like that. All right. Then later on, we actually end up meeting his brother, and his brother looks like this. His brother is so cute, sweet, and just beautiful. He's my like favorite character right now, and the author's like trying to make us cry, and she doesn't end up succeeding. Or, I mean, they don't end up succeeding, but for some people, I think they ended up succeeding at some point. And then we start communicating with said child, and we end up drawing together. And then we're like, oh, he's so adorable. And then we had a fun time. Later, right before like the guards came in, the kid secretly handed us a drawing and told us to give us to his brother, please, because we told about him and how his brother is and etc. And we're like, I promise you, we will. Then when the guards got us out of there, they're like, we know that SCP etc 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 gave you something. And we're like, yeah, and and they're like, please hand us back or we'll have to kill you by force. And then we end up freaking losing it and threatening them, causing them like, oh, like, go back up. And I go, okay, man, I'm so sorry, like, you know, just end up threatening the guards or the doctor or both. And then they ended up backing off real quick, they ended up backing off real quick. So then after that, they end up taking us to our cell, and then boom, we're just kind of there thinking about what we did, right? And that's what the drawing looks like. I think it's so fucking adorable. I think it's fucking adorable. Honestly. Then, freaking randomly, Dr. Gears walks into our thing. Starts kind of getting up on us. Like, why are you mad? Etc, etc, etc. Kind of being a manipulative, weird, abusive bitch, kind of. Like, not hitting us or anything, but, like, kind of holding us, touching us a bit too much. And then kind of, like, telling us not to do it ever again. And that he'll let us keep the drawing. Etc. And we're like, thank goodness, because I wasn't gonna go down with a fight, like, etc. Then right after that, I think like 10-20 minutes later, freaking Dr. Bright walks in, and then we start talking to him, hug him all of a sudden, and just secretly shove the drawing into his amulet because I guess it's big enough. And then we're like, he looks at it weirdly, and then we're like, you better not open it here, I'll fucking kick you. Then he ends up, like, realizing, and he's like, thank you, Wyatt, I love you, like, I swear. And then ends up running out of the cell, running into the bathroom to open the new drawing, and he was just tearing up like no fucking other, bro, and just smiling at the picture. Honestly, I would too if I haven't seen my brother in that long. Like, shit. But I don't have a little brother. I have a big-ass brother that's, like, almost, like, way older than me. So, I'm the youngest. Anyways, let's get now straight into the story. Hello, everybody. So, I would like to give you some warnings before we go straight into the story. So, first things first, I like to mention there's going to be a lot of, like, gore, little bit of just some dark subjects. It's going to go from 80 to 1,000,000 real quick, real fast. It'll mention the bones breaking, death, torture, pretty much, and just a lot of yandere-ish subjects that involves basically anything around with yandere. So yeah. And also, I guess another warning is how I did the chapters from 14 to etc. Because technically, the two things I read are not chapters. They're like more like side by side things of the Yandere alphabet. So I'm probably gonna shorten it to Yandere alphabet and then to Yandere alphabet. So yeah, because technically I only read one chapter. Just wanted to kind of clear some confusion, but it's still kind of confusing me. But I will try my best to title it for the title and for the title of this video. Anyways, without further ado, now y'all can get officially straight into it. This is the Yandere alphabet. This is not chapter 14, according to the story. But, yeah, we're reading the Yandere alphabet, etc. We're going to call this as random chapter all the way to said chapter, alright? Anyways, Yandere alphabet with Dr. Alto Clef. Affection. How do they show their love and affection? How intense would it get? He shows his affection by joking and poking. He's also a very touchy-feely kind of person, so a lot of head pats or getting in personal bubbles. He probably wouldn't get so intense to the point people know his obsession, but just to the point making it clear if anyone gets too close, they wouldn't be coming into work tomorrow. Oh goodness. Blood. How messy are they willing to get when it comes to their darling? To his darling in particular, he wouldn't be that messy. To others around his darling is a different story. They fucked hard. Like they fucked up they're gonna get fucked up real bad. Cruelty. How would they treat their darling once abducted? How would they mock them? Would they mock them? Very cuddly when abducted. He wants every bit of their attention. Might poke fun at how easily he caught them, but like, come on. This guy is pretty much the devil himself, so what are you gonna do? Darling. Aside from abduction, would they do anything against their darling's will? He would look through every bit of social media darling has. Every conversation, every picture, every like. He doesn't really like the idea of privacy. The only privacy his darling is getting is when going to the bathroom. I mean, popping and popping, using the bathroom, showers, and baths. He'll be watching or participating in. A big no-no for him is anything sexual. He will not force that on his dearest. He knows how it feels, so it's a sore spot for him. Exposed. How much of their heart do they bear to their darling? How vulnerable are they when it comes to their darling? Alright, so Dr. Clef is a profuse liar and doesn't know his true feelings often. Well, no one knows if he is or not. He is a little more vulnerable around his darling than most and would try to be a little bit more honest. Fight. How would they feel if their darling fought back? He is laughing. Like, honey, do you really think this is gonna do anything? He likes the festiness of it though. He's much stronger than his darling, seeing he was a field agent, so he could quickly overpower and pin his darling down / sedate them. Okay, that's totally not normal. Game. Is this a game to them? How much would they enjoy watching their darling trying to escape? Hell yeah, this is a game to him. He knows his darling will eventually break and bend to his will, so he enjoys and takes his sweet time. He would find his darling escape attempt pretty funny, seeing how the actual likeliness of them escaping is pretty low. Hell. How would their darling's worst experience What would their darling's worst experience with them? Probably the worst experience would be him killing a family member or a close friend in front of them. Slowly and painfully. He would make sure his darling knew that he wouldn't be doing this if his darling just listened and didn't go against him. I hope we don't end up with this dude. So, honestly, Gerald and Dr. Clef is off the table. For me, they're off the table. They don't have to be off for you, but they're completely off the table. And for Gerald, to the people who's been watching this series for a long time, y'all know why. Ideals. What kind of future do they have in mind for/with their darling? He wants marriage. He wants to spend the rest of his life with his darling in peace. His darling is a kind of escape for all the craziness in the SCP Foundation. If that future involves kids, even better. He gets to be a better father than he was with SCP-166. Seeing how he's stuck in a cell because he was raped. ARP'd and stuck in a reality bender's world. He wants to do it over with a person who isn't corrupted, but he won't forget about his past. Oh goodness. This has gone dark real fast. Jealousy. Do they get jealous? Do they lash out or find a way to cope? Yes, he gets very jealous. Have you even seen someone be beaten over the head with a ukulele? Kisses. How do they act around or with their darling? Very affectionate. Wants cuddles, kisses, hugs, all the 9 yards. He just likes feeling loved and likes giving love. Probably still kind of an asshole, but will be less so with his darling than others. Love letters. How would they go about courting or approaching their darling? He would poke a lot of fun and jokingly flirt with his darling every chance he gets. This is kind of bad, seeing this could go 2 ways. Once his darling would find it being as friendly, and he gets friend zoned, or his darling would be hurt by his snarky comments and try avoiding him. Both very bad in his opinion. He does leave little notes with the auto-clef music symbol on them. And then, this is a little sample of what he would write. Hello, little lady. How have you been? It feels like I haven't talked to you in a little while. You know, that guy you were talking to, I killed him. He was screaming things like he was your brother and such. I didn't believe him. He wanted to get in our way. I couldn't let that happen. You know something. It really makes me angry when you throw out these notes I leave you. Don't try to deny it. I've watched you throw them in the garbage and set them on fire, though. The face you make as they burn almost makes up for it. Almost. I pour my heart and soul into these notes, and you set them on fire? Don't worry. You'll make up for it once I have you in my arms. I'll come and get you soon, little lady. Auto-clef symbol. Here. Okay. I don't think we would throw them in the fire, but okay. Mask. Are their true colors drastically different from the way they act around everyone else? Not really. He's still kind of an asshole and snarky. Just more affectionate with his darling than others, because that's how you're supposed to be in a relationship. And not so damn controlling, but like here we are. Naughty. How would they punish their darling? He would punish his darling by giving them less freedom in the relationship. You're already giving them less freedom. Fuck you, bro. Darling wants to go outside? Alright, you can go if you're good. You wanna cook some food? Sure, just make sure you don't do anything bad or you won't step 5 steps close to the kitchen. He also might isolate his darling. Putting them in the basement for a few days will teach him. He needs to be killed. He needs to be put in the fire. Like, Oppression. How many rights would they take away from their darling? Not many. He would take away their ability to go outside without him being there, but that's it. He might put a chain around their ankle while he sleeps so he can sleep without worrying about them running off. Then again, every door has at least 3 locks on them, and all of the windows are deadbolted to the frames. Of course, that's if you're good. Be bad and you'll have nothing. Fuck you, bro. Patience. How patient are they with their darling? He is very patient to his darling. For his darling. He knows they'll break eventually and finally be his, so he can wait until then. He also knows it's natural for them to be scared, so he can handle it. Don't push your luck, though. Everyone will eventually come to their wits' end. Quit. If your darling dies, leaves, or successfully escapes, would they ever be able to move on? Nope, nada, no, sorry. He opened his heart once. He's not going to do it again, just to be broken. Never again. He wouldn't let it happen again. He'd rather die than let it happen again. Thank goodness, no more victims. Regret. Would they ever feel regret about adopting their darling? Would they ever let their darling go? Not really. He knows if his darling just gave in to his will, then this didn't have to happen, and he wouldn't have to do the things he had to do. The way he sees it, the faster they give in, the faster they can be happy together. You mean you. Stigma. What brought about this side of them? Childhood, curiosity, etc.? Probably his yearning for a relationship. He looked at his darling and probably thought, man, that person, hot and cute. Shit. A simple crush turns into a maddening obsession. Tears. How would they feel about seeing their darling scream, cry, or isolate themselves? He thinks it's kind of funny if his darling screams or cries. His darling will break, so this crying and screaming thing isn't doing you any favors. He doesn't like the isolated part. He wants the attention of his darling, but they will break and yell at him, seeing how annoying he can be. Probably. Unique. Would they do anything different from the classic Yandere? He doesn't do the broken thing. He doesn't break and start killing everyone around him while laughing. He doesn't need to be a Yandere to do that. He will get his way either against his darling's will or not. Vice. What weakness can their darling exploit in order to escape? His willingness to give so much freedom in the beginning. Then again, you might get out of the house for a few minutes, but will be dragged back, then have all the freedom taken away. Wit's end. Would they ever hurt their darling? Not really. Physically, mentally, or anything else? Probably mentally, yeah. Not really. Maybe if he was pushed to the edge of his patience, then they would get a well-deserved backhand. He won't apologize for it either, because his darling probably deserved it, because it takes a lot to push him to the edge. And then, I don't know how to say that. How much would they reverse or worship their darling? To what length would they go to win their darling over? He has no shame to shout it from the rooftops. He would go to any lengths to win his darling over. Yearn. How long do they plan after their darling before they snap? He doesn't snap. He just gets rid of whatever is in his way in a calm manner. He will wait for a long time until his darling bends his will and finally belongs to him. Whatever. And then Zenith. Would they ever break their darling? Oh, they would break. Dr. Clef has all the time in the world and he'll wait. The second they do break, he would be the happiest person on earth. He would give them his everything, and in return, they would give him theirs. And this is why you, good sir, have no bitches. This is why you, good sir, literally nobody loves you no more. Dr. Clef and Dr. Gerald are out of the table. I hope y'all hear that loud and clear. Anyways, what's this? Oh, it's cute. Chapter 14. Mama? And then equals nickname. So, we're in a dream now. YN's POV / dream start. YN? I look up to seeing my father. Huh? Yes? I asked, placing my colored pencils on the floor. Where's your brother? He asked softly as he bent down to my leave, making eye contact. I think he's talking to Grandpa. I said softly, feeling nervous. Father sighed and sat on the floor. That boy talking to that rotten man. He muttered, obviously not wanting me to hear. Listen, my NN, don't talk to that man. He's weird and lies. Father said, but Pops always tell really good stories, like the one about the Scarlet King or I was stopped as Father slammed his hand on the ground, cracking it. I jumped and looked at him. So, he's already told you. Father hissed as he pulled something from his back as my eyes widened. dizzy. My vision slowly started to blur as I fell to the ground.
Why can't we just let her know?
Someone yelled.
She can never know what we are.
Father yelled back. Dream end. Ooh, so we're part of the Scarlet King type of shit? Oh shit, ooh. Her grandpa was an SCP member? Ooh. Dream end. I slowly sat up and looked around. What was that? Father? Pops? Who are we? I threw my legs over the bed and stood up. Whatever. I hope Dr. Bright saw the image. I walked over to the bookshelf and grabbed the book Dr. Gears and Dr. Iceberg got me. Got nothing else to do. I opened the book and sat down as I started to fill in a crossword. I sat there for a few minutes as my thoughts started to wander. I hope I can see TJ again. He's a good kid, and I hope this foundation treats him better. At least he gets a bunch of toys and gets to watch TV. I was snapped out of my thoughts as the door opened, revealing Dr. Brights. She walked over to me. How have you been? She asked as I stood up. Good. How are you? I asked as she smiled. Good, good. Anyways, we need to get going for testing, she said as we began to walk out of the room. I wonder what we'll be testing. Have you ever thought about killing yourself? Dr. Rice asked. Huh? Of course I have, I said blankly. Wow, so blunt. She chuckled. May I ask why? She asked. Some stuff happened in my life, and I thought it was my only option. It wasn't, and I had some friends that pulled me out of that dark time, I said as I smiled a little. It happened so long ago. It's kind of nice to remember. I was snapped out of my thoughts when we stopped at the door. Alright, so this might sound strange, but ignore the fact that she's naked, she said, opening the door. What? We both walked in as I saw a blonde girl sitting in a nice-looking room. Hello, SCP-166. We have someone to talk to you, Dr. Wright said as a girl turned to us. Wow, she was beautiful. She is gorgeous, damn. Rapunzel, let down your hair. I smiled at her. Hello, I'm Wyatt Ellen, I said, waving a little as she blushes. Oh, hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm SCP-166, or the teenage succubus, she said timidly as I picked up on a British accent making me blush. Succubus, that's a little... Whatever, she seems like a nice girl. Dr. Rice grabbed my hand and pushed me into the room. I almost tripped only to have SCP-166 grab my shoulder, stopping me from falling. Thank you, I said, backing up a little, still a little nervous at the fact that she was naked. She smiled as I noticed a rosary/cross around her neck. You're Christian? I asked, smiling as she blushed. Oh, yes, I am. Is that a problem? She asked as I shook my head. Oh, no, it was just a little surprising, I giggled as we sat down at the table. I smiled at her. So, how about you tell me about yourself? I asked. Oh, well, I grew up in a nunnery. Well, until I was found by this foundation. I was brought here because of my anomalous properties, she said, playing with her long hair. Why does she seem familiar? Her face and her eyes, it's all so familiar. Not to sound rude, but what are your anomalous properties? I asked as she seemed a little embarrassed. Well, any man who sees me becomes very obsessed with me. It gets to the point where they try to sexually assault me any chance they get, she said sadly as I frowned. That's terrible, I said as I placed my hand over hers. Oh, don't worry. So far, no man has ever succeeded in their endeavors, she said softly. That's good, at least. What are your properties, if I may ask? She said. I sighed slightly. I don't know. I know I'm an SCP, but I don't think I'm that weird or out of the ordinary. I mean, I'm just lucky, I guess, or maybe something, I said, confused as she giggled. Well, that seems hard, being in here and not knowing why, she said. Ugh, my head hurts just thinking about it. I was snapped out of my thoughts as Dr. Wright walked into the room. Into our room. What the fuck? I looked at her as she beckons me. I guess it's time to go. I stood up and waved at SCP-166 as I walked over to Dr. Wright's. Let's go, she said as she opened the door. She was nice, I said as we walked out of the room, as Dr. Wright nodded. Yes, she is a very sweet girl, she said as we walked out of the secondary room. She is also Dr. Club's daughter, she said. I stopped walking and looked at her. That's why she's so familiar. I would never have thought he would have a daughter. I giggled happily about it. That doesn't put you off? She asked surprised. Not really. It's sad that she's in here, though, He must feel bad about it, I said sadly. Oh, yes, he isn't allowed to see her as a protocol. Dr. Wright said, anyways, you've been so good. The O5 is letting you request something. She said, O5? What? I asked. Dr. Wright paused. Right, I should explain. She said, alright, so the O5 are the people who control everything here. There's actually 13 of them, but anyways, they're letting you ask for something, like an item or maybe a privilege you didn't have before. She said. I paused and started to think. What do I want? What don't I have? What privileges do I have? I asked. Well, you actually have the bare minimum for human SCPs, so you can ask of anything that comes to mind. She said, a bigger room or bed? Maybe an instrument or a Rubik's Cube? I said as she nodded. Noted. Didn't think you were the one for something like that. She said, well, what am I supposed to ask for? I said, pouting as she giggled. Whatever. She said, Dr. Wright stopped walking. Wait here for a moment. I need to get something before I take you to the cafeteria. She said as she walked off into a different room, leaving me in the hallway with different kinds of people walking by. I have a bad feeling. I looked down the hallway, feeling my gut turn. There was a few seconds of silence that passed over me as suddenly the hallway lights turned red and a loud siren called out, Containment breach, Keter! It yelled as everyone in the hallway quickly ran and hid. What should I do? I looked around, noticing every door was now locked tight. Well, damn. I sighed and fiddled with my hand, the bad feeling in my stomach growing worse. I was snapped out of my thoughts as I heard tiny footsteps running towards me. I was about to turn, but I felt a tiny person grab my legs and hold on for dear life. Huh? I looked down, seeing blonde hair. Hell, I was cut off. Mama! She yelled, holding on tighter. Mama? I don't remember giving birth to you. I looked at her as I saw bright, glowing green eyes. I bent down as I looked over her. What the? Her arms had some bruises on them from the puncture wounds as she sniffled slightly. Mama, help! Bad people are coming! She yelled, grabbing my hand tight. We need to go! She yelled, pulling my hand slightly, wanted me to run with her. I stopped and pulled her back a little. What do you mean, bad people? I asked as her tears started to spill from her eyes. Wah. She yelled as I felt my heart break. No, don't cry. I pulled her into a hug as she cried into my shoulder. Now, don't cry. I said, rubbing circles onto her back. She sobbed as I hummed a soft melody as she seemed to calm down. Are you okay? I was cut off as I saw an abundance of guards come around the corner and point their guns at us. What's going on? Leave me and Mama alone! The girl screamed as everyone fell into silence. Is it Seguros? Oh, security. Please come back with us, Dr. Gears said as he walked out of the group of guards and towards us. No, Professor Gears, you're bad too. You just want to hurt me and Mama. Seguros yelled at him. I just wish all of you would disappear. She yelled, raising her hand as all of everyone seemed to hold their breath. I grabbed her hand. You shouldn't say something like that. That was very mean, Seguros, What do you mean? They could have been torturing her and you said that, girl. She'll told her so. I scolded as she looked at me with teary eyes, but I stopped her pleads. No, that was mean. Now apologize, I said, giving a hard look. Seguros sniffled and turned to all the guards. I'm sorry, she muttered sadly, but I'm not going back. Not without Mama, she yelled, holding on to my side. I sighed as I stood up holding Seguros in my arms. All right, Dr. Gears said as he beckoned me to follow him. This girl is the Keter, isn't she? I walked with Dr. Gears as some guards followed behind us. Get away! Seguros yelled at a guard that got a little too close. Hey, don't be mean, I said as Seguros pouted, muttering an apology. I sighed. She doesn't seem dangerous, but looks can be deceiving. I patted her back as she seemed to calm down. Why does she call me Mama? I don't think I look like her. Is she just confused? We all stopped at a door as Dr. Gears pulled out an identification card from his neck and pressed it to a scanner, making the door open. We walked into the room as I noticed a hospital bed. I should let her go now. I walked over as I placed her on the bed. I need to go now, I whispered to her as I backed away, only to have her grab my hand. No, I don't want Mama to leave. she said as tears welled in her eyes. I should really tell her I'm not her mother. So girls, I'll be back, I promise, I said, sticking my pinky finger out. Better not tell her. She looked at my finger, then back at me. Okay, she said, intertwining her pinky finger with mine. You better come back soon, she said as I nodded. I walked away from her and back to Dr. Gears as he walked the both of us out of the room, closing the door behind us. Thank God. I crouched down, rubbing my face and letting out a sigh that I didn't know I was holding in. She was the keter, wasn't she? I asked as Dr. Gears hummed, yes. He answered simply. Why was she calling you mother? He asked. I don't know. Maybe she thought I was her mother? Maybe I looked like her mother? I muttered as I stood up. That is possible, Dr. Gears said as the lights turned back to their normal color. Keter class has been contained. You may resume work as usual, as normal, a voice said over the intercom. I sighed. I have no idea how that worked. I just went along with it and seeing how I didn't want to get shot. I said, explaining why I didn't want to correct her. Thank you, Dr. Gears said, looking at me. For what? I asked. He paused and thought for a moment. For helping us recontain SCP-239, he said as I nodded. I didn't think I had a choice, I joked as I giggled slightly, not noticing the way Dr. Gears' eyes sparkled. Let's get you back to containment, he said as I nodded, following him as he leads me down the hallway. We both walked down the hallway as I saw researchers come out of the rooms and start doing the work again. This place is weird. Why did she call me Mama? I don't remember ever giving birth to a kid. Or maybe I did. Anything's possible in this goddamn place. I sighed as me and Dr. Gears made it to my room. Have a nice day, Ryan, he said, opening the door as I walked in. The door closed behind me as I walked over to the desk. Everything's so complicated now. It feels like I'm being watched 24/7, and if I do something out of the ordinary, I'll probably be punished for it. Damn it! Fucking damn it! I stopped and decided to start doing some breathing exercises to calm down my heart. I took a deep breath in and let it out after a few seconds. Slow it down. No need to get angry. Still, her calling me mother made my heart skip a beat. It felt weird. I never thought I would be called mother. I didn't fucking know I had a child a few seconds ago. I giggled at my thoughts. I looked over to my bookshelf. Dr. Glass said it would make me feel better to write my feelings down. I got up and grabbed the book, walking back over to the desk, sitting down. I wish I could talk to Dr. Glass again. I miss our conversations. I started to write my feelings down. I stopped for a second, thinking, man, I just miss talking to normal people. Well, mostly normal. If I get the chance to talk to Dr. Glass again, I should tell him about my weird dream. I looked at the paper and continued writing. Oh my goodness. Crazy girl. So y'all, we're gonna take a moment to read this real quick. So this is the Yandere alphabet with Dr. Jack Bright. So this is not chapter 15. This is just another thing. So I'm gonna read it anyway. Excuse me. Anyway. Affection. How do they show their love and affection? How intense would it get? He would show his love and affection by being overly touchy, kisses, hugs, hand-holding, etc. He would get very intense with these things, even if his darling and he aren't even in a relationship. Blood. How messy are they willing to get when it comes to their darling? Very messy. This man in his mind got nothing to lose. What is the Foundation gonna do? Fire him? Bad idea, seeing how he's immortal and could easily spill all the secrets of the Foundation if he wanted to. Cruelty. How would they treat their darling once abducted? Would they mock them? Very clingy, doesn't want to spend a second away from his darling. What if they get lonely? Probably takes time off of work to spend more time with his darling. Probably wouldn't mock them because he doesn't want them to hate him. See? Smart choices right there. Darling. Aside from adoption, what would they do? Would they do anything against their darling's will? Cuddle sessions, doesn't matter when or where. If he wants cuddles, he'll get cuddles. He also might force marriage early on because he sees it as a way of assuring you stay with him. Never mind. Exposed. How much of their heart do they bear to their darling? How vulnerable are they when it comes to their darling? He'll spill his heart out if his darling wants him to. He knows he has a lot of baggage, so he won't just start spilling unless he knows his darling wants to listen. Fight. How would they feel if their darling fought back? Sad. He would be very sad. He doesn't understand why. He doesn't want to hurt you yet, and he gives you all that you could want. He might cry depending on how much he wants to die on that particular day. Game. Is this a game to him? Excuse me, is this a game to them? How much would they enjoy watching their darling trying to escape? He doesn't see it as a game, though he will act as if it is. If you want to play the fool, fine by him. Just don't come crying when you get punished for your idiocy. This bitch. Hell. What would be their darling's worst experience with them? The worst experience is probably having him come home in a different body for the first time. Seeing a random person walk through the door, then try and hug you. Fucking got smacked and kicked in the balls as you ran away to hide because you thought someone was trying to assault you. Assuming you're not a doctor, agent, or /agent at the Foundation. Ideals. What kind of future do they have in mind for/with their darling? He wants to live happily with you for eternity. He'll find a way to make you immortal, even if you don't want to. He wants to get married and be happy. He likes the idea of kids, but even having the name Bright will kick you in the ass somehow. He doesn't like the idea of you getting pregnant from one of his random bodies, though. Okay. Okay, fufu. Anyways, this is like the headcanon that the author says. It's my own personal headcanon that the Foundation makes every member put away some sperm/eggs if the member dies/gets sterilized so the wife/husband can still have kids. I don't think they care enough for that, but anywho. Jealousy. How do they get jealous? Do they lash out or find a way to cope? He gets very jealous. He doesn't lash out unless he sees them as a threat to the relationship. The way he copes is to try grabbing your attention from the person and being generally annoying so the person leaves. Kisses. How do they act around or with their darling? He would be very happy. Extremely happy. He would be very loving and an attention whore. Wouldn't let his darling's gaze leave him. Wants everything his darling can give to him. He'll give his everything back in return. This sounds extremely like Norman for some reason. Love letters. How would they go about courting or approaching their darling? He would give them gifts, flowers, candy, letters, clothes, anything he thinks you want. He would also be less annoying around them so they like him more or try to be. If he did write a letter, he would probably draw a very bad drawing of his amulet or just to sign it as Jack, but nothing more. And then this is a sample of what he would if he does write us a letter. I don't really like letters. I mean, who even uses them nowadays? Most people just text or email each other. But I can't really do that because you could track the number. I don't really want you ruining the surprise, so I'll just leave a letter at your door. I'll just tell you one thing though. I'll be coming to get you soon, my love. So please be prepared. Crude drawing of the amulet, Jack. Mask. Are their true colors drastically different from the way they act around everyone else? Not really. He's just a little more insane. When he's killing, he's smiling more than he should. He's a little more crazed when chasing his darling. Other than that, he's pretty much the same old Dr. Jack Bright. Naughty. How would they punish their darling? Losing freedom or maybe even physical punishment. Depends on how you anger him. He's not the most stable person in the world. If it's something not that bad, then guess who's being watched 24/7? If it's something really bad, then guess who's getting their legs broken? Oh my goodness. That way you don't run away from him, nor will you be able to resist if you broke your arms, now would you? Oh my god, that turned to fucking 80 to 1,000,000 real quick. Damn, makes me appreciate my legs more. Oppression. How many rights would their darlings take away from their darling? His darling isn't getting any kind of social media. They would be lucky if they even got to watch the news. Anywhere his darling goes, he'll be with them. He actually likes going out with his darling to eat and go on dates. Patience. How patient are they with their darling? It all depends on how he wants to die on that particular day. He can have a lot of patience on a very good day, or already be at his wit's end by just one backward comment. Quit. If your darling dies, leaves, or successfully escapes, would they be able to move on? Seeing as how he's immortal, he'll think that he'll never find someone else, But then someone comes into the picture and history repeats itself. Then again, he makes sure that his darling doesn't get away, and if his darling is immortal, well then he's got an eternity to find them. Well damn, look at that. Regret. How would they ever feel guilty about abducting their darling? Would they ever let their darling go? Probably would only feel guilty if he hurts his darling and they sob and cry. He wouldn't let them go though. But they will get everything they want if they behave. Stigma. What brought about this side of them? Childhood, curiosity, etc. Probably a person who emotionally open around him. A person who cries and smiles around him. He likes seeing that. He likes seeing the person angry too. He's slowly starting to realize he loves seeing all these emotions and he wants to see more of them, and that's the start of it all. He wants to stay by your side and watch all of the emotions. Tears. How would they feel about seeing their darling scream, cry, and / or isolate themselves? He feels guilty. He really feels guilty. So he doesn't feel guilty about breaking my legs? Fuck you. He likes seeing them cry, yeah, but not at him. He also doesn't appreciate the screaming. He really hates the isolation part. He hates it. He wants to see his darling. He wants to see all of his darling. Unique. Well, would they do anything different from the classic Yandere? He comes back. In the normal Yandere story, the main character suffers through all the good Yandere stuff, but then the main character either submits to the Yandere or ends up getting rid of them, killing / putting them in jail, etc. No, not him. He comes back. Always. He has a lot to pull in the Foundation, so jail isn't a problem. And death? Well, we all know how that ends. Vice. What weakness could their darling exploit in order to escape? His mental state. It can change a lot, and he can be very vulnerable at certain times. You just have to time it right. Be careful, though. His mental state can change in an instant. So when you run fast. Wit's end. Would they ever hurt their darling? Yes. He would hurt his darling. Not for fun, nor would he like it. He just thinks, why do you have to go against me so much? If you want to be that way, then be that way. He wouldn't kill his darling. He'll break a bone or two, but you probably deserve it if you pushed them to that point, or he lost his grip on reality. Whatever this word is. How much would they reserve, or whatever, or worship their darling? To what length would they go to win over their darling? He would worship the ground they walk on. He knows everything about them. He has thousands of pictures of them doing random shit. He would go to any lengths. He has nothing to lose in his mind, so why not just put all his effort into making himself happy? Yearn. How long would they pine after their darling before they snap? Not long, probably. Again, it depends on how he's feeling on that particular day. He could only last a day or last years patiently waiting for his darling to give their heart to them. Zenith. Would they ever break their darling? That's a hard maybe. It could go both ways. On one hand, Dr. Bright has lifetimes to wait and slowly break his darling down. On the other hand, he's very unstable and makes a lot of mistakes. I got interrupted, but yeah, I hope that one day he breaks his legs just to know what it feels like before he even attempts to break our legs, or after he breaks our legs. I hope he gets his legs broken and his arms, and then see how that feels. Because then he isn't gonna be like, oh yeah, I would totally break his, like, oh my god, that shit hurts. I would never. Like, just see how quick he'll probably switch up real fast. Oh my goodness. Anyways, did you guys enjoy that? I honestly think it was a pretty crazy little roller coaster. I might have to put a warning about this because shit, it gets really dark real fast. But anywho, let me know what you guys think is gonna happen next in the comments down below. Did you guys expect freaking Dr. Bright's daughter to be a freaking succubus Christian? That's pretty unique if you ask me, and that's really sad that he's not able to see his daughter. That's really sad. I don't think she knows that her dad is literally working at the Foundation, but can't see her do the protocol. That is really sad. That is really fucking sad. And also, I think I should mention this once a couple times while we read the series. Please remember, everyone, that people being yanderes should never be normalized. Please, if you feel like this towards anybody, I don't care who the hell it is, please seek some mental and physical help. Please go get some help, because the way they're talking about her is as if like she belongs to them, like no matter what. And obviously, yes, is entirely wrong. She should have her own say. If they really love her and care about her, she should have her own say. She doesn't have to be threatened if they take it the wrong way and she gets hurt randomly if she catches them on a bad day. Because that's how it should never be in a relationship, ever. That, it's giving 1950s. It's giving old. It's giving trash, really. It's giving a lot of garbage. That's why I always say, like, fuck y'all. Because it's bad. Like, just don't normalize this. I've seen a couple TikToks over there trying to normalize this shit, when it should never, absolutely never be normalized, no matter what excuse.
Stop it. Get some help.
It should never be normalized. Like, come on now. Be better than that. Y'all know that this shit is not normalized. It's just better if it's fiction. Stays fiction permanently. But I know there's some crazy people out there that are literal fucking crazy people. But yeah, don't normalize it. Please and thank you. Anywho, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing videos, guys. I think we'll have more of the Yandere alphabet as we go along our way reading this. So expect a bit more of it. I'm kind of excited, I'm not gonna lie, because this is kind of interesting to each and different depending. Because for me, I think Dr. Clef is much more brutal than Dr. Bright, but at the same time, they're both brutal in their very own ways. Like, very much brutal. Like, this one, he's more crazy on each and every very day. Like, with Dr. Clef is much more even. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure. Yes. Anywho, sadly, you girls gotta go. I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, etc., wherever you are. I would like to let you guys know that I might not be posting a lot this week because I have like a competition to go to and everything. So it's a pretty tight schedule. So if I do manage to post this on said week on the same time, well, thank goodness, right? Thank goodness. Anyways, I gotta go, y'all. I shall see y'all in the next video, depending on what series you guys usually like to watch. But still, you girls gotta go. Bye and peace.